Xunami, I'll start with you first because I actually remember coming across you on my Instagram explore page before the season because of your coach campaign, which I was like, wow, this is like super exciting. And knowing that you were of the House of Candy Muse already, how do you think this fashion and modeling experience helped you in the season by already having that background?
I think for me, the way it translated on the show was more like the graceful element about it. You know what I mean? Knowing, where the cameras. I mean, that was one thing that I went into it, kind of like being aware of, which is something exciting for me because I mean I've lived for it, right? But I think what's gonna be cool also is because all of us represent like a different version of drag, right? Seeing we're all like doing drag through a different lens, so I'm excited to be that sort of like fashion and like runway point of view when it comes to what we know as drag.
Absolutely, absolutely. So Mhi'ya, you were also someone that once I saw the Meet the Queens, I realized that I had seen you on TikTok before because of all of your flipping videos. Do you think have being quote unquote viral or being recognized before, do you think that aided in any way for you to prepare for Drag Race and being recognized by what's about to be so many millions of people because of being on the show?
I don't think it would help me. I mean, anyone can go viral. I don't think that helped me get ready for Drag Race. Honestly, getting ready for Drag Race, you have to be mentally prepared, physically prepared, and just ready to go in and get what's yours. You got to be passionate, dedicated, and just ambitious about it.
Yes, yes. And we know that you're friends with Malaysia Baby Doll Fox from season 15, and she brought that Miami representation that we needed last season. And this season we have both you and Morphine repping Miami. What's it like being able to represent Miami and to bring Miami drag onto this platform as well?
It's an amazing feeling to have to be able to express the drag that we have down here because Miami hasn't really gotten that attention. We had Malaysia. Malaysia was just one girl, but now you have two girls, me and Morphine. So we're able to showcase more of Miami and to see different sides of Miami.
And Geneva, for you, this season we have such an abundant amount of Latina representation this season. You know, we have multiple Latinas even in this call right now, and then multiple this season. I think it's the most we've ever had in one single regular Drag Race season. So, what does this representation mean for you, considering things are going through right now, such as the drag bans, racism? What does it mean for so many to be represented right now on such a large platform like this?
Oh my God, it's so amazing to have like, 5 Latinas in one season. That is the most we've had, and we're all so different and unique in our own ways. And we're all represent different aspects of drag. And I feel like with everything going on right now, we need to like use our voice and the platform and to, let the world know that, we are here, it is art. And who better to do it than 5 spicy Latinas?
Yes, absolutely. And Plasma, for you, I was literally dying at your Meet the Queens because there's this like running joke throughout the fandom that several queens over the past few seasons have just been BFA graduates that somehow got lost and became drag queens. But I feel like you're the first one who would actually lead into that immediately, and it made total sense. So ultimately, how do you think, I guess, your experience in the arts kind of informs your drag and vice versa?
Well, I have always sort of felt like my purpose in life is to be an artist, and I've been lucky enough to be able to pursue art for most of my life. There is nothing quite like sharing joy in a way that lets people relax and catch them off guard with something funny, or catch them off guard with something poignant or something meaningful. I mean, I grew up listening to Barbra Streisand and Judy Garland, who like trained me in no specific way, but in every specific way to scream to the heavens about how I felt. And I've always felt very inspired by artists who are able to tell the truth in any circumstance, whether that's performing or being an advocate or being, any medium of art. I just find it as one of the most valuable resources to share love and joy and humor. And so through my BFA, I mean, like, you're right. We've seen I've gotten so many online comments about like, wow, Jinx really got a bad facelift, didn't she? And I'm like, thank you so much. But I've really felt like there is a lot of opportunity in a performer, especially someone who feels very performance-minded, like I'd like to consider myself to be, to share not only humor and joy and positivity and fun, but also important information that impacts all of us. I grew up in a very rural area, and then moved to New York, which sort of like inspires a lot of my advocacy work and my politically minded activity. And I think that art has always sort of led me to tell the truth and to try to be an advocate for people who weren't always as fortunate as I was in getting to be an artist for most of my life. So I owe everything to being an artist.
Hershii, I'll start with you first, because your explanation of your drag in your Meet the Queens gave me, my auntie who's driving her Nissan Altima home from work after a shift, if she has to go pick up the kids from school. That's what it was giving me. So why do you think this is such a unique perspective for a drag character that we really don't, and why we really don't see this in a lot of drag archetypes?
Honestly, that depends on what scene that you're on. I'm not heavily fashion based, or fantasy based, like I'm just a regular girl. Like I'm around the way. And that's a drag form too. Let me not say that's just a drag form. That's some of the drag that I grew up watching. And that's some of the drag I like emulating. Just a regular around the way girl. She cute, she like to perform. I greatly appreciate like drag like Dawn's. Like Dawn is larger than life. Amanda's personality in drag larger than life. No, Q's fashion out of this world, and then there's me, right? I like being performance ready. So my wigs are not as big as the other girls. My fashion is not as extravagant as the other girls, but I am regular. When you see me on stage, yes, she's right. She's got it together. That's where I like to keep my drag at.
Dawn, for you next. We have a lot in common, actually, because I am also, living in New York. I'm from North Carolina as well. I like to say Durham-ish. I'm from Roxborough, which is like a small town just north of Durham. I went to school at UNC, so very familiar. But I wanted to know, how do you think that perspective of being a transplant in New York City and being from North Carolina, but then being in New York, which is like the one of the capitals of drag in our country, how do you think being from North Carolina, bringing that perspective and just diving into the New York City drag scene has influenced your drag aesthetic?
That is a layered question, and thank you for asking. I also went to NC State, so I don't have friends. No, I'm kidding. No, it's really interesting because growing up somewhere like North Carolina and Raleigh specifically, like it's the suburbs, it's the city, but it still has that kind of vibe, you know what I mean? And so for that reason, when I found drag, it was very, very eye-opening for me that I realized that I could like dress in this way and like be this person. And especially being in North Carolina, the drag there is very like pageant, beautiful gowns. And I am obsessed with each and every single one of those girls. But I think because I had been so like kept in for so long, like that's why I exploded into like this like craziness. And I'm really grateful to North Carolina for that, because I think that, like you take all of your damage with you throughout your whole life and it shapes you into whoever you are. And I'm grateful for that, obviously. Moving to New York, I will say was the biggest culture shock. It was probably like 7-8 months of straight, just like, you know, panic and spiral and, you know, trying to like get your feet planted in a new place, and especially a place that is so different from the suburbs of Raleigh, North Carolina. And, you know, I really think that my drag took off from there, because when you're surrounded by such incredible visionary people, you become better by effect, just by being around them. You take things from them, you learn things from them. And yeah, your specific question about the transplant, I also want to know is that I try to be very aware, and I, especially when I first moved here, that like, I almost wanted to like acknowledge that I was almost a guest in the space for a little while, because I was new, because I didn't grow up there, and because, you know, it wasn't my home until, you know, 2.5 years ago. And so I always want to bring Brooklyn and the people that were born and raised in Brooklyn and the people that have been doing Brooklyn for 10+ years. I always want to put them first and foremost and celebrate that community.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And Amanda, first off, I just love that you referred to yourself as Wrinkled Neck Lady on Twitter. I was absolutely dying at this self-reference. And also, I don't know which one of your sisters said this, but they're like, big neck lady has nothing on.
That was me.
And I love that so much. But I want you to take me back to the moment where you complete the first runway and you're there on stage and you're realizing that you're about to be critiqued by RuPaul on the biggest stage of drag, period. What was going through your mind at the time? Was it anything that you thought it would be like? Was it different that you thought it would be like? What was that moment like?
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, honestly, it's one of those things where I had seen that moment so many times from the camera's perspective and like envisioned myself experiencing it and living it. And so to like actually have that happen and be like, I'm like, whoa, so like that's the wall behind the camera. And like, I hear the lights switching the colors like in the ceiling and it's like, it just is a very surreal, like cool, it feels like somebody like snuck you into a concert that you like didn't get tickets for and you're like, oh my god, like this is how it works.
Yeah. yes. And then Q, for you, I always ask queens every season one thing that surprises them about the competition in that setting. Like one thing that you go into the competition is something that completely subverts your expectations from what to expect. One answer I always commonly get is that the workroom is very cold. And you do not realize how cold the workroom is until you get there. But I wanted to know from you, what's one thing that you think was completely different than you expected and surprised you about being on the show and being in this competition?
Honestly, I kind of expected everything to move fast on Drag Race, but the amount of time you have to do things is very small. So it's like you have to be ready for that. It really, when they say it's RuPaul's Drag Race, it is a race against time to like complete the challenge or do the thing, or it's like you have to do the thing, but you also have to be like good at doing it quick.
Yeah, I would bet. And I think that it's also interesting to see it from a viewer's perspective too, because like we're getting it perceived as like, you know, weak. I know for y'all, it's different. Like, you know, it's quick, it's moving. So I can only imagine how that must seem. And also being in a pressure cooker environment on top of time moving fast. So
it's the right recipe to get these girls, you know, a little bit heated.
But the environment always really just makes people want to be testy already in that type of environment. So super excited to see.
I just remembered the food that they serve us on set is so delicious. It is beyond.
Who said that? They were not anticipating how good the food was going to be.
Baby, like the breakfast that they cook for. Ooh.
It's like you've been transported back to that moment right now.
No, I literally like I miss eating breakfast on that lot. Like it was so good.
I feel like I ate more on Drag Race than I do in my real life.
Like I had to kick my soda habit when I got home. I was like, ooh.
Nymphia, I'll start with you first. You have the honor of being the first Taiwanese drag queen on Drag Race. I mean, sometimes it's always bittersweet because you hate that we're in a certain time where so many things are still the first in 2023, and even though it still means a great deal. So, what does it mean for you to be breaking ground on U.S. Drag Race, and also just how do you think your culture even inspires your drag as well?
Definitely a lot of pressure and stress, representing a whole island country. Because, yeah, a lot of people back home in Taiwan look up to me. So, like, yeah, it was very stressful. It still is. And hopefully I don't disappoint them. And with my culture and Taiwanese background, it's really something I love to do to incorporate with my drag so that I could, like, because for me, drag queen is such a Western concept, really like fully developed by America. So like a lot of people in Taiwan, look up to American drag. So there's no like definition of what Taiwanese drag could be. So that's why I like to incorporate my own culture to, find a new definition for Asian drag.
Yes, yes. And Plain Jane, next for you, take me back to that moment when you have completed the first runway and you're standing there and you're realizing that you're on the biggest stage for drag in the world and you're about to be critiqued by RuPaul. What was going through your mind at that time? Was it everything that you imagined, or was there anything that was unexpected as well?
I think that my vision that day was quite literally like blurring the entire day. Everything was kind of like melting together. I felt like I was like on a bizarre acid trip. Like it was just a fever dream. Of course, like it's the first day, you're getting critiqued. It's the first elimination day. You're super, super nervous. But at the same time, I was just kind of trying to bask in the moment and take everything in, really take in every feature of Mama Ru's face. It was just incredibly surreal, I don't really know how else to describe it. I think that, my fellow castmates can speak to this. I feel like some certain things from the show are just a blur because are just like completely washed from our memories just because of the pure state of shock that we were in. So yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy.
Yes, yes. And Megami, for you, we have gamer queens this season, which is super, super exciting. How do you think that adds an interesting lens to your drag? And also, how do you think that influences your perspective so you can fuse both, drag, which I'm sure is a love and a job, also something that you love as well?
Yeah, so like I literally started drag not even in clubs and bars. I would do drag at like New York Comic Con and like Anime NYC and like all these geeky conventions. Cause like, hey, I'm gay and we love like the girl characters. Like I don't want to dress up as Wolverine. I want to be Jean Grey. So like that's where I came into drag, was through cosplaying and kind of figuring out how to create a costume out of random junk, because that's kind of a huge part of cosplay. It's like I can't go to Party City and buy the some random anime thing. So like you gotta create it. So I think that's really lent itself into my drag and my like ability to kind of just roll with the punches and make whatever I need.
Yes, yes. And also for you, there is a huge Latina presence on the show this season. I think probably the most Latina queens that we've had probably in a single season. Why do you think that representation is also so important, especially given the time we're in as far as like, drag bans and, racism and things like that, for there to be representation on this platform, given the fact that Latina drag is so huge across the country?
Yeah, I mean, like I am so happy and proud that there is so much Latina representation on this season, just because like, it is so important to show the many facets of like Hispanic culture, Hispanic people. We're all pretty much like different types of we come from different countries. So like being able to represent that and show the world, like, you know, Latin excellence is like a huge honor for me. And like, I love that I got to get to know my sisters even better. And yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then if we could just go around the room, same order, Nymphia, Plain Jane, and Megami. What is something that you think surprised you the most of the competition? Like something that you walked into the workroom and then something that completely subverted your expectations about what to think. Every year I ask this question, and one common response is that queens are always surprised about how cold the workroom actually is. They always say that year after year. But what's one thing for each of you that you think like completely you weren't expecting about going to this competition?
Definitely how cold it was in the workroom. That's one. How the abundance of food and the hot men walking around that we can't talk to or have any sort of access to. Yeah, everything, every day walking into the workroom was a surprise because you don't know what's coming. You don't know what the people are going to throw at you. You're going to be like, ah! With the fear of not wanting to go home. Just like, but we survived.
I feel like, I honestly feel like with the amount of sort of behind the scenes tea that's like floating around from previous seasons, I wasn't really particularly surprised about anything on set. It was just very surreal being like in my, you know, television screen, essentially, you know, behind the scenes of everything. That was very cool. You know, of course, you know, all the queens tell stories about how cold the workroom is. And it is true. You know, all the staff is walking around in winter jackets as we're there shivering in our like little tank tops. But yeah, I think I mentioned this before, but I was just surprised at like the rapidness of television. It's like, okay, moving on. Okay, next. I was like, damn, slow down, like let me breathe, bitch, you know. But yeah, that was probably the most shocking thing for me is how quickly everything goes.
Yeah.
I think really nice about this season in particular that I kind of wasn't expecting was that like everyone was super cool from the beginning. Like, you know, there's obviously we're queens, we're gonna be shady, but like we kind of formed a sisterhood really quickly, and that's been nice to like have people to kind of rely on and who understand the experience after all of this, because it can be traumatizing.
Sapphira, I'll start with you first. So you spoke about having auditioned for Drag Race several times before, and you seem to come into the competition from what I can see already with just like this experienced aura to bring to the competition this season. How do you think that may have benefited you in season 16 going into the race?
Having been told no so many times, I basically had nothing to lose. All I had to do is just get out of my own way and just show up and do what I've been doing drag for 14 years. So like, just do what you know to do.
Yes, absolutely. And why do you think this year was the perfect year? Like, do you think there's some sort of like serendipitous timing as well? Do you think like all the previous times this one was the right season for you?
I asked the Lord a long time ago to get on this show, but I gave a caveat. I said, I don't want to get on until I'm ready. And so I believe that this happened because I was ready.
Yes, absolutely. And Mirage, for you, how do you think working in Vegas prepared you for the show? I feel like there's been several Vegas queens on the show over the years, and I feel like while they're very different, they also kind of bring some similar aspects as well. So how do you think that prepared you for season 16?
I would have to say Vegas is very pressure cooker. I mean, it's very like, if you can, it's sink or swim. It like the girls out here are working 4 or 5 nights a week, and if you can't keep up, that's what it is. I mean, not everybody is a lip queen, but everybody knows everybody's working, so the bills are getting paid, and that's all we care about. So.
Period. And you were also, in your Meet the Queens, you were teasing a little bit of drama coming up this season, just a little bit. So I have to ask, Mirage, are you the drama of the season? What can you tell us about that?
I've always been the drama. That's what they brought me here for. So, but specific details, I'm gonna have to leave that up to your viewership.
And Morphine, for you, there is a very large Latina presence on this season. Probably one of the largest we've seen before on just one single cast. Why do you think this is so important for a show like this, given the fact that Latina drag is so like prevalent, especially in the time that we're in right now, as far as like drag bans, you know, racism and things like that?
I think it's like I'm proud to be in a season full of Latina queens. And I think it's like so important to have Latino representation now more than ever, with everything going on with the drag bans, with everything happening in the world, you know, especially, you know, now we have our first Miss Universe Nicaragua, which is where my parents are from. And, you know, Nicaragua is so underrepresented in anything. And it's just amazing to, you know, have 5 Latina queens on RuPaul's Drag Race from different countries, from different backgrounds, representing their countries on this amazing platform. And I'm proud to have a huge Latino fan base here in Miami and online. So I'm just so proud and happy to be on this season with my fellow Latinos.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then next, if we could just go around the Zoom, I would start with Sapphira, then Mirage, then Morphine, same order. Take me back to the moment when you first got on the main stage, completed the first runway, and you're standing there in front of RuPaul, realizing, wow, I'm on the world's biggest stage for drag, and I'm about to be critiqued by RuPaul herself right here. What was going through your mind at that time?
Don't cry, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. I think I'm gonna cry. I think I'm gonna cry. It was just like, oh, we're really here right now. That's exactly what was going through my mind. It was just a couple of words. They weren't very expansive. They're very simple.
No, you know what? It was just flying by so fast. I remember being there and thinking, it's just like, I don't even know how to take it in. I don't even know how to like appreciate the moment, because it was overwhelming in the best way, but it was so fast.
Yeah.
I don't know what I was thinking. I loved it. I was just having a good time, honestly.
Girl, I remember being absolutely like gagged, like holy, can I cuss? No, I can't. I remember being like, holy shit, balls, fuck, girl, I'm here. It's happening. Don't have a panic attack. Don't faint. Don't cry. Ru is literally, it's like seeing a mirage, literally. Like, it's like seeing like, it didn't feel real. I'm pinching myself. You know, it was a lot, especially seeing Michelle and how gorgeous she is, and Ru, it was beautiful. Like, wow. And yeah, I had to breathe like 8 times in and out to make sure I wasn't going to pass out.
And also for each of you, what's something that you think surprised you about this? It's like, what's something that I feel like sometimes when I talk to queens, they'll be like, okay, when I entered the workroom, I thought X, Y, Z. And then there's something that just completely subverts your expectations of what you see. A lot of times people say, well, I didn't realize that the workroom was as cold as it was. That's one thing that people talk about a lot. But what's something about the competition that you think completely took you off guard when you entered?
Everyone was so sweet. I really was surprised of how like it was just a big community, from the cast to the crew to the team to everyone, all the producers. Everyone was just so sweet. And you know, you hear about Hollywood and like all that kind of stuff, and so you kind of prepare yourself for whatever comes. And I guess I was surprised that I didn't really need to prepare myself for anything, because everyone was just so sweet.
Oh, that's so sweet. Mirage, what about you?
I was gonna say something similar. It was the cast, the way everybody clicked so quickly. Like, it was very, I mean, I was one of those girls who was ready to walk in there and say, I'm not here to make friends, blah, blah, blah. And then literally I could hang out, I could go to lunch, I could go out with any of these girls and have a sickening time. It's the Kiki. Everybody knew how to take a joke and everybody knew how to read. And we just hit it off immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Mirage said, like I connected so well with the cast, and it just broke the ice, and I felt so much better after.
Amazing. Well, thank you three so much for chatting with me. I cannot wait to see this season. I just know there's so much fun in store. I know you're all going to bring it every week. So thank you so much, and congrats again on the upcoming launch of season 16 of RuPaul's Drag Race.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, my love.